guys, it's Alicia. Today I have a Weight Watcher recipe for you for 2-ingredient pizza dough pizza. Now this is one of my family's absolute favorite meals to have. I make this probably at least twice a month, if not more, because I just absolutely love it. I've been making this pizza dough and this pizza for years. In fact, I have a previous video up on it, but I've made just a couple little tweaks to it to make it more Weight Watcher friendly, because we're doing Weight Watchers now. And also the quality of my other video is not the greatest. So I thought I would just refilm it and show you how Weight Watcher friendly this recipe really is. And not only that, like I said, it is just delicious. It is a great way to have pizza without all the guilt. So let me get started and I will show you what you're gonna need to make this. Okay, first off, for the pizza dough itself, all you are gonna need is 1 cup of self-rising flour and 1 cup of fat-free Greek yogurt, and that is it. For the pizza sauce, I like to make my own. You absolutely don't have to. You can buy a pre-made. Just if you are doing Weight Watchers and you're watching your points, make sure you check how much that would be point-wise. Like I said, I make my own. I think it's really easy and it tastes pretty good. So what I use to make mine is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I use a little bit of olive oil, oregano, basil, granulated garlic, fresh ground pepper, and then I used to use sugar when I made this, but obviously sugar has points in it, so I wanted to keep this as low as possible, so I now use just a couple package of this stevia or stevia, and it probably equals out to be about a teaspoon. And then I also add in a little bit of salt. And that is it for my pizza sauce. Now as far as toppings, I like to use veggies, as you can see here. I've got mushrooms, 2 different colors of bell pepper, and a red onion chopped up there. I like to use veggies not only because I like having a lot of veggies on my pizza in general, but these particular veggies are 0 points, as are most vegetables on Weight Watchers. So I use a lot of those. You can use anything that you want. I've used spinach before too. So you can just get creative with what kind of toppings that you want when it comes to the veggies. But I always say the more 0-point veggies in a Weight Watcher recipe, the better, because that just bulks it up without any added points. So that's what I'm using for veggies. I also like olives on my pizza, so I'm using this 2.5 ounce or 64 gram can of sliced black olives. Now, olives do have points, but that's okay. That's just one of the things I really like on my pizza, so I go ahead and use these even though they have points. Here I have got a little bit of turkey pepperoni. This is a serving, 28 grams, and I just weighed it out so I could get it exact. And here I have 8 ounces of part skim mozzarella, and I also weighed this out just because I wanted it to be exact. So that is all I'm gonna be putting on my pizza. I'm gonna get started with my pizza sauce first so I can have that simmering while I'm making the dough. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my tomato paste and I'm gonna dump it in this small saucepan. Maybe, if it comes out. And then I'm gonna take this can and I'm gonna fill it with water. I've got this filled with water. Now I'm gonna just kind of stir this around in here to get that remaining paste out of the can, or at least as much of it as possible. And then dump that in there. Next, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. And I measured this out now. I used to just kind of dump it in there, but again, I'm being conscious of points, so I want to make sure I don't add too much in there. And so now I'm gonna just start adding my seasonings, and this is all kind of just personal preference. Just do it to your taste. I don't measure the stuff as I'm putting it in. I just kind of sprinkle it in. So I'm gonna start out with my oregano. And basil. And I would say if I was measuring, those two would probably both be around 1/4 teaspoon. And a little granulated garlic. I love my garlic. Probably same with that, probably around 1/4 teaspoon. Little fresh ground pepper. Salt. For about 1/2 teaspoon. Maybe a little less. Again, this is all to taste. And then my 2 packets of stevia, which, as I said before, I would guess this is probably about a teaspoon worth, maybe less. And I don't think I said, but I've got this on a low heat, and I'm just going to mix this all together. And then I'm gonna just let this kind of simmer over here as I'm making my dough. And again, you do not have to make your own pizza sauce like I'm doing here. You can definitely just buy a pizza sauce in a can, jar, or a marinara sauce, something like that. I just like doing this because I don't think it's that difficult, and it lets me kind of control what goes in it and really know what's in it. So I just think it's pretty easy, and so I just make my own. Plus, it's cheaper. And sometimes this looks a little thicker than others, so I will go ahead and add in just probably another 1/2 can of water, because I don't want this to get super thick, and it will be kind of simmering over here for a little bit. So this will just keep it from getting too thick. So we'll just let this sit here, do its thing, and we will move on to the crust. So this crust is about the easiest pizza dough crust I have ever made, ever found. Like I said, it's 2 ingredients, and you really can't get any easier than that. So you're gonna just take your yogurt and put it in with your self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour, you can absolutely use regular flour. You're just gonna need to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, I believe it is. I always get powder and soda mixed up, but I will correct it if I was wrong. Baking powder and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So now what I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna just mix it together really well. Okay, once I've got it to about this consistency, you can see I'm getting it spilled out of the bowl everywhere. That tells me it's ready to come out of the bowl, basically. But yeah, this is kind of what it's looking like. So I'm gonna take this and pour it out of the bowl. And then I'm gonna just start kind of kneading this together. And you're gonna wanna knead this for probably, about 5 minutes, maybe not quite that long. But you wanna knead this until that flour and yogurt are all incorporated together and this starts to look like dough, which it kind of is now, but it needs to be mixed more. And you also are probably going to need to add a little bit more flour to this as you're kneading it. That is kind of the downside to this, is you do end up having to add a little more flour, which doesn't end up getting figured into the points because it's hard to tell how much you use. But I would say probably up to another couple tablespoons. As you can see, this is starting to get super sticky. So I'm going to grab a little more flour and continue kneading this. Okay, I've kneaded that for probably about 5 minutes. And as you can see, it looks like dough now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to divide this in half roughly, and you can weigh it out to make sure you have equal parts if you want, but I'm gonna cut this in half so that I can make 2 separate pizzas. And also right now you wanna be having your oven preheat to 425. So here I've got 2 pizza pans that are about 12 inches in diameter. And so I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil that's in this and spritz the bottom of the pan. And that's such a negligible amount of oil that that is not going to add any actual points, so I don't factor that in. As for the dough, I should have said, when I calculated the points for this dough, because you do have to use a little bit of extra flour just to knead it out and roll it out, I added in 1/8 of a cup to the cup that goes into this, to the recipe builder. If you use much more than 1/8 a cup of flour to knead and roll this dough out, you're gonna need to factor that in because that definitely could affect your points. So I'm gonna take my dough, and like I said, I'm gonna kind of just cut it in half. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take these balls, add a little bit of flour, and I'm gonna roll these out to fit those pans. So, kind of like that. Now I don't try to make this perfect, I just get it as close as possible. So then I'm gonna take my dough, and plop it on this pan. And this dough you can kind of manipulate around pretty easily to get it to fit in here nicely. Kind of like that. And again, it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the next one. I've got both of these rolled out and on the pans. And like I said, they're not perfect, but I'm totally okay with that. So now what I'm gonna do is take my sauce and I'm gonna pour roughly half of it on each one of these. And then I'm gonna just spread that around the crust. Now I'm gonna take my cheese and divide this between these two pizzas. And this is one place where I cut back to make this more Weight Watcher friendly. I used to use probably twice this amount of cheese. But I found that cutting it back, it still tastes really good and you're not getting all those extra calories from the cheese, which was a little difficult for me at first, I will admit, because I do love my cheese, but this amount is still really, really good. And I guess if you wanted to use like a fat-free cheese, you could lower the points even more on this, but I like the part skim mozz. I think it just has a great flavor, and like I said, I've just cut back on how much I put on, and that works out pretty well. Okay, so that's the cheese. Next up, I'm going to put my veggies on here. And now my olives. And the pepperoni. And then I always forget, and I almost did this time too, but I will put jalapenos on one of the pizzas because my husband loves them. I don't put it on both because my kids absolutely hate them, and I don't really blame them for that. So I will put a few jalapenos on here too, just for a little extra flavor and a little kick. Okay, so now those are ready to go in the oven at 425, and I kind of just watch them and cook them anywhere between 10-15 minutes. I'm actually using different pans this time. I normally use rectangular cookie sheets, So the time might be a little bit different on this, but I'm just gonna watch them and make sure I don't overcook them. And then I will be back when they are done. Okay, here they are. I let these cook for just about 18 minutes, which was longer than I thought it was gonna be. Like I said, I'm using new pans, so that changed a little bit. And it will vary on the type of pan you use and your oven. So I also don't ever set timers for this, to be completely honest. I usually just watch them and pull them when they look ready. So yeah, this took 18 minutes. They are definitely done. I will let them cool a little bit and then I will cut into one so you can see what the crust looks like. Okay, and here is a serving size of this, which would be a quarter of one of those pizzas. So there are 8 servings total with the 2 pizzas. Now, I'll show you what the crust looks like a little bit here. It's not super thick, but it browns up nicely. It's very much got consistency of normal pizza dough, and it's just got a really great flavor too. Like I said, this is probably one of my family's favorite meals. They love this, my kids love it, and so I make this quite a bit. And I love that it fits into our Weight Watcher lifestyle now. With just a couple little tweaks, I made it lower points than it used to be when I made it. So now it fits in great, and it is definitely something I make a lot. So the points on this, on all 3 colors, green, blue, and purple, is 6 points per serving, which is not too bad. You have this with a side salad or some vegetables, and you've got yourself a nice little dinner. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.